What is up, podcast land? Welcome to another episode of the Two Dates and Dash podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kubler. And before I introduce my co-host, Bronwyn Price, I want to let everybody know that the 2-year hiatus I took with this show was intentional. I wasn't banned. I was banned from a lot of things, but that's not why the show ended. I got tired of talking. And if for those that know me, you may not believe that, but I got tired and I just needed a break. And with everything that's going on with Bronwyn's brother, Joe Price, the investigation into his death, it just seems sort of right to bring this back and start doing some productive, proactive helping of some people who truly deserve to have their voices heard. And those are the Gold Star families. And that's what we're really going to focus on right now with the show is Gold Star families. So without further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, my brand new co-host, Bronwyn Price.
Hello, podcast land.
I'm
very excited because I have as my first guests Audrey and Amber, who are two very good friends of mine, but they're also Gold Star sisters like I am. So Matt and I were happy to get the Two Dates and a Dash started again because I felt like with all this attention that I've been getting with everything happening with Job, I want to make something positive come out of it. And I think from my experience for what happened with losing my brother, I had never even met anybody whose brother served in the military when my brother died. I didn't have a friend whose brother was even serving. So it was a very sort of lonely experience. And I didn't really know anyone I could really talk to about it until I met these two girls in Arizona in 2017 it was. And just meeting them and other Gold Star siblings, parents, wives, it's really helped me through my own journey because we all have very different stories, but we all have a bond through our loss, and we all have something that we gain through this loss, even though it is a bad thing. I think we all look at our own lives in a totally different way because it forces you, like I was saying to Amber right before we went on, it's like you have two lives. You have one that was your life before, and then there's your life after loss. And for me, they're two separate lives. That life I had before is in my past, and I won't have that life again. But I really hope that life I had is going to bring a lot of good in this new life that I'm living. So go ahead, Matt.
Well, thank you for that. And, it is your brother and your family has inspired all of this. So I wouldn't have any reason to do this podcast again if it wasn't for what's been going on and what has been going on with you and your family and the Gold Star community that you're very deeply part of. And I do want to point out, I always wear one of these hats for the podcast, so I brought it back out. And in Bronwyn fashion, she is going to be, and I think this is going to be something we're going to highlight every show, is one of Bronwyn's hats from her collection. She's how do I put this? An eclectic.
I'm a hat hoarder. It's a hat hoarder.
You used the word hoarder. I did not.
Wrong, but my 14-year-old daughter told me I was not allowed to wear a cowgirl hat. You're supposed to wear like this. It's the only hat made that you fasten the hat in the front like this.
If you're
all
6,
hats are in the back.
If you're 6 years old, yes, that probably is true, but you're not.
Nope, that's the way we wear cowgirl hats.
All right. All right. So for those who watched the show before, I typically only ask one question that's pre-planned, but because we're sharing the story of someone who is not with us, it's a 2-part question for each person. So I'm going to start with Audrey. And Audrey, I'm going to ask you, who is Audrey Ford and who was your brother Adam Smith to you?
Audrey Ford, that's me. I'm a nurse. I'm an LPN at the Macon County Health Department. I'm the school health nurse. I've got 4 kids. I love spending time with my Gold Star siblings. My family is huge, so I'm number 2 of 9. Adam my brother, it was number 3 of 9. So he was just maybe 2 years younger than me. Maybe not quite full 2 years, but close enough to 2 years. So he's number 3, and out of the A team is what we go by, because all 9 of us start with the letter A. So he's number 3, and out of the A team, he was. We only had 3 brothers, so losing him, we're down to 2 on the A team, and it just feels like there's something missing without him. It just, the A team's not whole anymore. So, but that's a little bit about me and who my brother is. Amber's better at this than I am, so.
You sounded so good. I didn't have to talk.
Well, Amber, I'll ask you the same question.
Okay.
Who was Amber Pikey and who was Adam Smith to you?
I'm Amber Pikey. I'm a mom of 2 boys. My boys are 12 and 15, and they're both much taller than me now. I'm really having a hard time with that. And I do the books at a truck stop, and I'm a single mom, and I hang out with my family. And Adam was my brother. I'm the oldest of the A team, and Adam was the oldest boy of the A team. So we kind of had that oldest child syndrome, both of us, even though he wasn't the oldest. He liked to pretend he was sometimes. And so that was just our bond, was the oldest child thing. So Audrey
So Amber, what made him want to be a Navy SEAL? Did he always want to go into the military, or?
No, honestly,
No.
I never heard him talk about the military ever. I still joke about how I'm pretty sure someone just said, you can't be a Navy SEAL, and he just went.
They did. Well, he said that he was talking about joining, and he did take the test, and they said he could be whatever he wanted, and he said he was going to be a Navy SEAL. And out on the fish farm, the guys were like, yeah, right. you do know that they yell at you and they're going to get in your face. You won't make it. And he basically said, bet.
Yeah.
And that's how he went about it. If you tell him he couldn't do something, he was going to do it to show you could.
Yeah.
Where was he based?
Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What team was he with?
He was on SEAL Team 4.
SEAL Team 4.
Like Joe.
All right, Bronwyn, I'm gonna do a little technical advising here. Sit forward a little bit there, not that close. Back it up. Back it up, right there. It's your mic is just a little bit soft. So here's and for those of you guys that aren't necessarily podcast veterans, you're gonna get people that will comment on the dumbest stuff. They'll be like, "Oh, Audrey, you really needed to fix her picture," or Bronwyn was too soft, or whoever's computer is making the ding sound every time something goes, they'll comment that. So there's a lot of stress from the comments, but I just wanted to.
Well, I would like everyone to know that I'm not a weak human being. If they want to comment, they can tell
and then
me.
Come at me.
The final technical
Bring it on.
advice
I'm weak.
Got their back.
is we.
Oh my God.
This is also, might I add, our pilot episode, and we are all. I am from Royersford, Pennsylvania, and I live in a rural sort of suburban area. I am not a high-tech person. I just want you all to know, so go easy on me.
I'm not either. I'm using my phone, so.
One of the things I wanted to ask, so we are, for those of you that are watching, unplanned, we are all part of the same club. We've all lost a sibling. I lost mine 35 years ago when I was 18 in a car accident. My brother Andy, and obviously I grew up with Job, and Bronwyn lost Job, and Audrey and Amber obviously lost their brother in September 21st, 2010, in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. And it's a sad club to be in, but it's also one that you're not alone in. Sadly, there are going to be people who are members of this club, and if you can't support one another, then what's the point? And the fact that you guys, Bronwyn, and you two are so close through the Gold Star community is a reassurance to me that the system of community in this environment can really work wonders for.
And
healing.
that's my hope, Matt, is that through sharing our stories that I can give hope to others. You know, I look at these girls and I look at, you know, how hard loss is and how strong they are and how resilient they have been. And I'll let them talk a little bit about some of their struggles that they've been through since their brother died, because independently of who their brother was, these women are incredible women in and of their own right. And that's what I want to talk about, is their stories, because that's what got me through, you know, my experience of loss, was seeing people like them and meeting people like them and having their stories to live my life by, and say, wow, you know, look, they can do it. I can do it. We can do it. We can do it together. We're stronger together. But literally these women, and Amber, I'd like you to talk a little bit. We have something in common, and I don't know, Audrey, because I haven't really talked with you about it before, but Amber and I are both involved with the Travis Manion Foundation. That's one of the ways that we've been giving back in our brother's honor, you know.
Yeah.
And I really have, you know, gained a lot, but Amber has done so much with them to help others. And maybe she can talk a little bit about some of the things she's done to help with that.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Travis Manion Foundation, when I first started in 2014, my mom and I went to, where'd we go, Audie? To Kentucky. And you spend a week and you do service. And we were up in the mountains in this community that was basically, it was a poor community where people didn't even have floors in their houses. And we just spent a week building rails for people's stairs and fixing floors and painting. And that was the first time I ever did it. And then Audrey and I went a few months later to West Virginia and did the same thing in the community there. And that's how I got started with Travis Manion. And so I did 2 of those expeditions. And then at the time, my kids were pretty little. My youngest was 3, and he was really struggling with me being gone for a week. So it was a good 5 years before I did another one. But I've done 5 of their expeditions now.
Wow.
And we went to New Mexico and built a house on a Navajo land where we had to get permission to go do that. I've been to Alaska and then also Puerto Rico to help after the hurricane. And I've done the Travis Manion, or I did the Marine Corps Marathon with the Travis Manion Foundation in 2022. And then right now, I'm in their Spartan Leadership Program.
Right. I saw. And when does that's already started? You went through the program.
Yes. We actually graduate this weekend in Houston at the space. I'm blanking.
Space Center.
Yeah,
NASA.
Yeah, we get our graduations at this.
I've seen Space Center.
Wow, that's so cool.
I've never been, so I'm excited.
I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
Me too.
Yeah, that's great. So I did a couple missions. I did one to Puerto Rico and one to Alaska. I haven't.
I would like to go on more since the wreck. I hadn't gone on any since the wreck, but I want to get to a point where I can. I mean, I can do anything else. I think I can do that.
You definitely can.
Definitely. Audrey, do you tell people what happened to you? If you want to share that about?
Yeah, I have no problems talking about it. In 2018, I was on the back of a motorcycle riding with, there were 2 other bikers with us, and we were riding down the highway when a woman pulled out from a side road, not paying attention. And I'm not 100% sure if she T-boned us or if we hit right on her front bumper, but we hit her. She hit us, and then one of our friends T-boned her at the same time. And all 3 of us were life flighted to university in Columbia, and where I spent 50 days at university. It felt like it was one surgery after another. I don't really remember the majority of this day or any of the wreck, I did lose my right leg above the knee. So I woke up. What I remember waking up was just being in pain, and my leg was gone. I had been cut open. I tell everyone I woke up and I was gutted. My leg was gone, and my arm was purple, is what I remember. I wasn't technically gutted, but I did have an incision from my sternum down to pubic bone because I had an open heart surgery. I had internal bleeding, and then they had to also fix my pelvis that was crushed. I was told by my mom that the surgeon said I would never, they would be surprised if I could even put any weight on a prosthetic to walk. And I will be in constant pain for the rest of my life, which is true, but I'm also very stubborn. So a lot like Adam, they tell me I can't do it. I'm going to do it just to show them I can. And then I cry about it later because it hurts, but I'm going to do it.
Well, I've been with you. I've been with you when we do this. Well, we met through the Navy SEAL Foundation, and the Navy SEAL Foundation is wonderful about helping honor, siblings, getting them together, having them, have that support. That's how I met these young ladies. But they do an event at the reunion we do. It's called the Krell Race, and it's sort of like a cross between Survivor and
Amazing Race.
Yeah, like that. So they have like little games, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Stations.
And then you got different stations, and there's like brain teasers. One of them's like they put a magnet on a fishing pole, and then you fish out and have to like bring back the next clue so you know where to go. But they put you in teams, right? But that's that.
I gotta brag on Bobby. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
But I was on her team, and she was freaking amazing. Like,
that was
better than I did.
Well, last year you weren't there. Last year, were you, Bronwyn? Or this last one?
No, in the Memorial Day one, I can't. It's hard for me to make it. My kids are in.
Well, on that one in the Krell Race, they had a tower that was a rock climbing tower that looked. I can't even explain it. Like phone poles were, crisscrossed, and they had the rocks on it, like rock climbing, and that was a part of the race. You had to get and climb it to the top and ring the bell. And I told them I wanted to do it. And some of them, a couple on the team are like, can she do it with her prosthetic? And I was like, well, yeah, I can.
And it was like
not around a pole. It wasn't very easy around a pole. The prosthetic didn't want to work. So I had to use all upper body strength to do it. Well, but I was determined. I got halfway up and I was like, what were you thinking? And I got to the platform and I thought I was at the top, and they're like, oh no, you got to keep going. I was like, oh, but I got up there and I rang that bell, and I had everybody cheering for me at the end. And then when I got down, then we were headed in the woods to the next station. And I looked down and there was a tag on the ground that it was somebody's, I don't know if it was their luggage tag or what it was, but it just said Smith on it. It's the first thing I saw when I got down from that. And to me, I took that as a sign that my brother was watching me, and it made me feel good.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I want to ask a quick question, Bronwyn.
What?
I'm a big, I may not come across as a faithful servant of Jesus Christ, but I am. And I do have a sailor's mouth, even though I was in the Army. And I don't always have a filter. But I do believe that those that we love deeply who pass on let us know they're here in many different ways. And I can list a dozen ways my brother has come and visited me in my last 35 years. And when you were in your accident and you came out of your accident, I mean, by all accounts, everything you just said to me makes it sound like you probably should not have made it.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually,
I did multiple times.
So was there a moment when you came to, whether it was immediately after you came through and started to have some cognitive thoughts, was there any moments in time when you felt your brother's presence?
Well, I'll tell you something that was really strange and I never thought would happen that they kept me heavily sedated because I am a nurse and I was not a very good patient, and I guess I kept taking my feeding tube out and I kept pulling the machines over and shutting them off because I didn't like the sound. So they kept me in restraints and stuff. But when I finally got out of the ICU and was put in a room, I had a male nurse come in, and he was my nurse for a couple days, and he kept looking at me and he kept looking at my dad because my dad always wears something that says Adam, something about Adam on it. And the one shirt that he was wearing said the name of the mission that he was on. And so this nurse said, he said, do you mind me asking, how do you know Adam? And I said, that's my brother. This is our dad. And he was like, and I said, how do you know him? He said, well, I didn't know him, but he said, I was the one that took over the mission when after the crash. He was a part of the team that took over that mission. And I said, well, what are you doing here in Missouri now? And he kind of just switched up gears and decided to go to nursing school. And he heard Mizzou was like the best program. So he just packed up and moved and went to Mizzou. And so the person that took over the mission was for my brother was my nurse. And
That's crazy.
that's
Wow.
what I remember, and how it kind of felt like he was there. My son, Xavier, reminds me a lot of Adam. So the way he talks and acts and everything he sounds, and it was his voice I heard. And I felt him squeeze my hand and tell me, he said, Mom, don't die. We still need you. Please don't die. And I could feel him squeezing my hand. I didn't see him, but I just heard him. And he sounds like my brother, but he was 14 at the time. He's 21 now. And that is a huge part of what kept me going, was hearing that. And whether it was real or not, I couldn't tell you, because I don't really know what was real and what wasn't. At one point, I thought that I was on a slowly sinking ship, and them having me in restraints was cruel and unusual punishment. And so I know I wasn't on a slowly sinking ship, so I know that I wasn't 100% there. So Amber could tell you stories about me. She took a lot of selfies. I know they gave me my phone back way too early, because I posted things that I don't remember posting. I took pictures of my room that I was in, and I have no idea why. Just pictures of the room.
Memory you have now.
So at least I know what the room looked like.
Yeah, got that.
So Amber, I'm going to ask you a quick question too, because I want to try and establish, there is a bond between siblings that, whether you know it while you're alive or not, you certainly find out about it when they're dead. In our case, you feel that connection, that lost connection, that almost is as strong, if not stronger, more palpable after they're passed than when you were with them and they're alive. I know that for me, and I know with Bronwyn, that's the case too. A lot of this connection to her brother happened after he passed. So when you first found out about your brother, the helicopter crash, what was the first? How did you find out about it, and what was your? How did you handle that?
No, I'm just kidding. So it was really strange. I at the time I was a sales rep at Walmart stores, and I used to take my lunch in my car. I would go sit out in my car and just listen to an audiobook and eat lunch. And I got a call from my grandma, and she's like, Amber, are you sitting down? And then she told me that Adam had died. And first of all, Adam's name was Adam Smith, and my grandma lives in Louisiana. And I was like, wow, grandma wouldn't know, before me or my parents. And so I feel bad now, like how this happened, but I called my mom first, and I was like, Mom, Nana just called me and said that Adam died, and my mom had just moved. So Adam hadn't updated her address. And so they hadn't found my mom yet. And she's like, call your dad. So I call my dad, and my dad works construction, and he was working in Iowa. And so he wasn't home yet. And so I had to call my dad and tell him. And he told me to call Charlotte, Adam's girlfriend, because she worked on the Navy base that Adam was based out of. We're like, surely if it's really Adam, like she would have heard because she's on that base, and she hadn't heard anything. And so we all just kind of thought maybe they got the wrong Adam Smith. And
So how did your grandmother, because she was listed and she was the only one that they could get in touch with?
yes.
Mhm.
So Keiko went to my grandparents' house, and that's who they reached first.
That's so. Oh.
But then my dad, after I had called him, he had driven home. It was a few hours, and I feel like I was just in shock. Like, I know I called my husband at the time, and I told him what happened, and I was like, you need to take me to my dad's, which was about an hour and a half drive. And I just sat in my car until he came and got me, and then he drove me to my dad's house. And by then, the Keiko officers had found my dad, and it was Adam. And that's really how we found out. And yeah.
It's not
Did
quite
you-
how I found it out.
Yeah, I don't know how Audrey found out.
How did you find out?
Well, I was actually at home and I was doing homework because I was in school trying to get my prerequisites out of the way. And I do have a little bit of ADHD, so in between homework, I would stop and like just scroll through Facebook, and my uncle posted RIP Adam, and he lived in Louisiana. And I was like, what kind of sick joke is this? Like, that's not funny. And so I called mom and was like, what is this? And she's like, I don't know. That she's like, Amber said grandma called, and I was like, well, they wouldn't go to her before you. I was like, grandma is getting older. She probably is confused. I was like, there's no way they would go and call her and go to them first. So I saw it through Facebook, and so
That is horrible.
that was hard to see. But then I called mom and we waited, and then I eventually talked to Andy, number 4 of the A team, our brother Andy, and he said, Audrey, they don't come to your house or come to anyone's house if it's not true. And that's when it really hit me, is when he said that to me, because we were still trying to figure out if grandma was losing it or not.
Right.
So
I did this 35 years ago. My brother died. I could still take myself back to that very moment when I found out. And I know I did not handle it well. I didn't cope well. I was 18. I was rebellious. I was 6 weeks away from going in the Army. I hated my parents. Like, I just didn't want to be around anybody to begin with. And then you add that into the anger mix, and it's a recipe for disaster for 13 years for me. So and I'll start with you, Amber, how did your, we'll say your first year post Adam's death, how did his death directly impact your day-to-day living?
So at the time, I had a 1-year-old, and we were living in the St. Louis area, and we were getting ready to move back to the Columbia area for my husband to go back to school. And so that first year, was a lot of just logistics. And my parents, they were divorced, and I don't know, I kind of felt like I had to be the one that did everything. Like, I'm the one that called and canceled his bank accounts and his phone. And I kind of felt like I had to be the strong one, because my parents had just lost their child, and I'm the oldest, so I had to just take on that role. And I really don't feel like I grieved for a really long time. Like, I don't know when I grieved. Maybe I didn't. So
Oh, that's kind of the way it was for me, because I was by myself pretty much then, because my brother he was the one who had his shit together, to tell you the truth. I thought he would do everything. Suddenly I'm like, what? Here I am, and my parents didn't handle well. I remember it was hard because I was a mom like you, young kids, little kids. I had 4 of them. So that, that's a life of its own, where you got Cheerios all over the floor and shit like that you're really dealing with too. And my mom would call me and say, your father, he's so upset. I can hear him. They slept in separate rooms. Okay. I'm putting this out there I know my aunts and uncles are watching, but that was a secret to their happy marriage, separate rooms. He snored, all this stuff, whatever. Anyway, my mom called me and said, I can hear your father crying in the other room and I don't know what to do. And she said, I try to talk to him during the day and he says it's over. It's done. He doesn't want to talk about it. So my parents had that conflict that I was dealing with, that they would both like call me and have their but it was just weird. It was like I was their parent now, and I never dealt with my brother's death just because I didn't have time, because I was a mom with 4 little kids. You don't get to be like, I'm sad today, I'm not going to be a mom. Even though you might feel like you want to do that. I'm sure you both found that being a mom it's hard enough to do without having to deal with all that stuff too.
What about you, Audrey?
Well, Adam passed away the day before my youngest daughter's 3rd birthday. So I had to try and keep it together for her the next day. And I still was processing it and emotional and she didn't understand why Mommy was so sad when it was her birthday, and she, it's supposed to be happy, and we were just having cake and ice cream at home, with the family. And so it made it hard, but it didn't, even going out there when Amber had to shut everything off and we went out there for the memorial service, it still didn't, I did a lot of drinking out there, and but it still didn't feel real to me. And I still continued to go to school and back, but when the rest of his team came back in May is when it hit me that it was real, because he didn't come back. And I was supposed to go and spend Memorial Weekend with him when he got back. And that was my last message with him, was a message of us talking about me coming out there. And he said, yeah, I'll be back by then. That's cool. Come on out. And so that was why I had been planning that. And so knowing that everybody came back and he wasn't with them is when it hit me. And I think I broke down the most, and I dropped out of college because it became too much. The breakdowns, they come in waves and you never know when they're going to hit. So it was really hard, I had 4 kids and they were all young, and Adam had helped us out that year before for Christmas because I had gotten laid off from work, and he did Christmas for the kids. And I kept all the receipts so I could pay him back. And so I was upset because I didn't get to pay him back. And then he went above and beyond, and I told him not to, but that's Adam. He wanted to spoil them. And they had those little PSP players, and one of them got broken, and I just dropped to the floor crying. And the kids couldn't understand. They didn't think it was that big of a deal. It was just a toy. But to me, it was, they didn't know it was from Adam. It was from Santa. So, they didn't understand why Mom was so upset about, a toy that was broken. It's just, I had to go outside and just, so they didn't have to see that. I mean, it was a real struggle. And then I couldn't go to his burial site for quite a while. I lived in the same town, and I would walk and I would get almost there and I would start shaking so bad and crying. I'd turn around and just go back. I couldn't get there. It took several weeks, maybe a month, before I actually finally made it to the cemetery. And I made it halfway up the hill and just collapsed. And then I let it all out. I'm pretty sure the entire town of Bevere, which is very tiny, so I'm sure they heard me because I was yelling and screaming and crying and just couldn't keep it in any longer. It just hurt so bad. Just the thought of, that he's my little brother. He wasn't supposed to go before me.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be me, not him. And so.
And he was always
that's
so,
tough.
I want to say confident, but he was really just cocky. And
yeah, well, so was my Navy
He
SEAL
was
trait, maybe a Navy SEAL trait, cockiness.
Yeah, he made you think he was invincible, and I never worried about him ever.
Yeah, I worried about Andy.
Me too.
Right. Well, and how many years had he been in? But how many deployments had he been on? Do you know?
He'd only been in. Okay, wait. What year did I?
2006.
He
4 years.
graduated in 2007.
Was it? Yeah, because I was
Yeah,
pregnant and I didn't get to
It was
go.
my honeymoon.
I think I wanted to ask one more follow-up question. So, Amber, you said you're not sure if you ever really grieved, and that's an important part of this. One of the things I think we can really establish through the podcast for the Gold Stars is the honesty around grief. Right, there's a component. Everybody does it differently. It took me 13 years to truly grieve, and it affected every part of my life. So when you say you haven't grieved, or you don't know if you've truly grieved, is it a conscious avoidance of grief, or is it a life has never allowed you the time or the opportunity and the peace to truly grieve?
I think maybe a mixture. I keep myself very busy, so there really isn't time, and that's probably what I do is keep myself busy, so there isn't time. So probably not that I don't cry. I cry a lot, but I don't know that I've ever just really just grieved.
Let it out.
I cry all the time.
Yeah, but not like that.
I feel the exact same way. I feel like for me, it's really hard sometimes because my brother was deployed so much that I often sometimes, to make things seem easier, I often think, oh, it's just like he's deployed.
Exactly.
That's how I put it for the longest time, that Adam always liked to play tricks on us too. So in my head, I was like, I keep waiting for him to pop out and be like, gotcha. I'm not really dead. That's something he would do. He would want
phone calls. Sometimes I'll get phone calls. Like once when my dad would call me, sometimes it would kind of sound like his voice. Like sometimes, like if your brother calls you, does he have kind of similar voice? Like sometimes to me, it'll just for a second, it'll jolt me. My dad would call me for a brief second. In my mind, I'd be like, maybe they made a mistake. Wouldn't that be great? Like they made a mistake. Yeah, exactly.
Special forces, they had to pretend he died so he could be off on this mission.
And he's really hiding right now.
You ever get dreams? It comes home. That's what I have sometimes.
I think a lot of the time too, just I forget he's gone. Like Adam and I both really loved movies and the game Seen It. And so a lot of the times like if a new movie comes out that I know he would have loved, my first thought is, I have to ask Adam if he's watched this yet. Totally.
I
just forgot for a second.
Well, and I still have his number in my phone. I haven't been able to delete it.
Me neither.
Even though it's not his anymore.
I have his number in my phone too. And I'm not gonna lie, a couple times I accidentally called it.
Amber, has he ever visited you in a something that I'm like, oh my God, that's him?
I mean, there's a lot of times. So when I ran the Marine Corps Marathon, it's kind of a joke because I was the nerdy kid that was in band, and I've never run a day in my life. And one of my other Gold Star sisters is like, Amber, run this marathon with us. It's really easy. And I can't say no. And I wrong. So I was like, okay. And so it took me 2 years of running every day to even
that's awesome.
Get to where I don't know how I finished the marathon, honestly. But a lot of the times I'd be running and I don't know, like a cardinal would just appear, and that's supposed to be a loved one, and I would just feel like, oh, okay, Adam, I'm going, like I'll do another mile. And that was also what pushed me to, I would be like, okay, if my little brother can be a Navy SEAL, I can run a few miles. And so I can't really say like I had a dream or I felt him. I always feel him. He's always there. And so
Well, I can tell you that having the longest period of time between death and now, that my dog's laying on the bed here yipping in a dream. She's Marley. Hey, please stop yipping.
It's not common.
That I've found that the amount of times that my brother visits me, and whether it's just a feeling in my heart or a memory in my head or something that actually is, I believe, a visit, they're not as close together as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But when they happen, they're powerful. And then you lean into that, and then it's not something you avoid, it's something you wish for. Like you really want that to happen. Like you become leaning into it, I call it, is the thing that I look forward to. And I get sad when too much time has gone between those.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I can tell you that the more you allow yourself to feel or want that feeling of loss and sadness and missing and longing, but that's the memory of your loved one that's still strong inside your heart, right? So for me, that's the validation of our relationship. That's the validation of the life we had together. That's the validation of the life he lived. And I think, there's a lot of people that avoid it. And I guess that's kind of why I asked you that question, Amber, because I wasn't sure if you were, and you kind of answered it that way. You said you work to stay busy to which probably has kept you from fully grieving. And I think Audrey, through her trauma,
in a different way, though.
And I think Audrey's trauma from her accident, that's a whole different level of scared and feared and all that, but it also helps you appreciate things a little bit greater. I really do believe that pain and loss help you appreciate what you have a lot greater if you allow it to be that catalyst in your life.
Well, I think one of the things you learn is that, don't you think, you don't sweat the small things like you used to. I look at people and what they complain about on social media, and I think that I know for us that we can kind of say that we can sit there and look and think, we got good things to be happy about too. Like we can focus on love and family, and I feel privileged that I'm able to say that I have so much more value for my time spent with my family than I did before my brother died.
Yes.
You know how many times I get together with my family and be like, oh, drinking, I'll do it next time, I'll see him next year. Now I'm like, I try to make a point. I want to see you as much as I can.
Yeah.
It did I feel like it brought our family a lot closer afterward. And we end our conversations with "I love you," just so we make sure that, because we never know.
Right, might be the last time.
Anymore, maybe the last time we talk.
Do you ever find you get scared like this? I find with one of the things I do, you almost fear what's going to happen next.
Constantly, I'm worried not about myself. It's everybody else that's, just losing. So we've lost 2 family members in September. So just recently, this last September. So September's not been a good month, other than my 2 kids were born in September. So that's the only good thing about September for us is my kids.
I think the holidays in general are hard for anybody who grieves. This whole stretch, I think that's one of the reasons us getting together in October was always a nice break. I like to get you over that.
That has helped a lot. That have been setting that up. When they set that up, I was really grateful for it because I can't tell you how many times people would come up to me and ask, how's your mom doing? How's your dad doing? It was just a constant, how are they doing? How are they handling things? Not once did they ask me how I was doing and how I was handling it.
Right.
Siblings have a different connection with each other than parents do with their kids. It's a whole different connection. And so, we lost it. We have things that we talk about their parents didn't know, so nobody ever asked that until we went to the sibling wellness weekend. And that is what has helped a lot, that being around everybody that is understanding and knows exactly what we're going through and has, gone through the same things, found out the same ways, and in a way found out the same way, it just has helped with that, that not having to constantly answer how my mom's doing or my dad's doing, because, I'm struggling too. I'm not trying to be selfish, but it was
a
hard on me
struggle,
too.
right? Yeah, and
Mhm.
I think too, like, you expected to have your sibling there to pretty much till the end. You were
Mhm.
not expecting to have to do all this stuff without your sibling.
Yeah.
No.
Like, I never want to get family
Days and-
photos again, or like I always see those recreations of like kids when they were little and then recreating it, and I hate them because like we can't, because
We
there
can't
are
do it.
years where especially the four old of us were like always together.
Mm.
A crazy
let's-
thing. Oh, sorry.
Let's transition a little bit to the what does Gold Star mean to you guys? Because I think it's important for the community to understand. I don't think there's a lot of people outside of the military or people that watch, like Fox News when they have the Gold Star, the Navy SEAL Foundation honoring the Gold Star, and they'll say Gold Star, but I don't think anybody truly understands what that term means. What has the Gold Star community meant to you guys, and when did you get involved first after Adam died? When did you guys first start getting involved in the Gold Star community? I'll start with you, Audrey.
When we got involved with the Navy SEAL Foundation, they did fly us out for a memorial service, but they didn't start the sibling wellness weekend until 2015, and that's the first one we went to.
That's the
So
first one we had.
yeah, that's the first one they had, and it was in California. And we didn't really that one was so scheduled and so just talk about your feelings with just in groups, and it didn't, it just felt too organized, I don't know what the word is. It was too much, it's too scheduled, and so then after that, they would have things where you could go to if you wanted to or not. And then you had free time. And that free time is what helped, because we could spend time with the siblings, our Gold Star siblings, and actually talk to them sitting around a fire pit and just tell our stories and talk to each other. And we were able to get to know each other. And that helped us more than having to sit in a room with, I don't know what they would have, a
I think
counselor or something, or
out, right? Don't you get therapied out? Like, everybody knows what you have to do to get to.
Yeah.
Everybody knows self-care, this, and breathe
but
more.
we just want to talk to each
But we
other,
just wanna
and
talk to each other, and have that.
that was more
Great.
helpful than anything. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Connecting.
And what about you,
So,
Amber?
Audrey and I mean, we started that first year in 2015, and we've gone every single year. Well, Audrey missed the 1 year she had her accident.
I tried to go. I really did. They wouldn't let me. I told them I was going. They said I couldn't travel.
We did video call her and go around and make sure that she was there at least.
I remember that.
And they signed a shirt. They signed the shirt for me, and I still have it. So I felt like I got to be there a little bit, even though I wasn't there. And it broke my heart because I look forward to it every year. So,
but yeah, the Gold Star, the sibling wellness weekend is really like, that's how we met Bronwyn. And like
It was the
Samantha and
costumes.
Felipe, they're the ones that they're my adventure buddies, and that I ran the marathon with. And
The Warsons who I compete with.
everyone has to beat the Warsons. It's just a thing.
It is nice that we all have each other, and I think we do really all have a really good, strong bond. I mean, no matter how our loved ones were lost, I think sometimes people get up, mine, died this way, died that. I feel like with the siblings, we've never even ever talked about any of that.
Yeah.
It's all like we all just support each other. We all have the same loss. We all lost our.
We all lost our brother. And that's kind of what Gold Star is to me. We lost a loved one that was also a veteran
who was in service to our country when they died.
Yeah. Even to me, like, someone that served that we lost, they're a Gold Star.
And Adam was definitely a Gold Star. Even if he knew that was going to happen, he still would have got on that helicopter. He wouldn't have stopped him because he wouldn't want anybody else in his place. No. That's just how he was. So
that's kind of what I wanted to finish up on is to really like narrow down Adam's servant mindset, like how he clearly was someone who felt a calling to first of all tell people, give them the big bird, say I can't do this, I'm going to do it, which I can totally explain. But his mindset to serve, and if you can start, Amber, on just talking a little bit about him and what he was like, so that people can, you can read a blurb on the Travis Manning Foundation page about him, and that doesn't really do it justice. Yeah.
Well, growing up, Adam was just a typical boy. He was a punk. Like, we have this joke about how, like, I'm pretty sure all Navy SEALs at some point or another chase their sibling with a knife, because like Adam did that, and he
chased Amber.
Stuffed animals' heads off with a knife.
Yeah. Oh, he used to take our Barbies and throw their heads in the road, and my Barbies, I don't know. Audrey was not.
I didn't have the Barbies. he chased Amber with the knife.
Yes, and he was so patient. Like, he would sit outside. Like, I'd get to my room and lock the door, and he'd sit outside, and every once in a while I'd just slide the knife under the door to let me know he's still sitting there. He was a punk, and he got into fights, and he was your typical country boy. And but then when he joined the military, and he was like a stick. He was so little, and when he joined the military, I remember the first time he sent me a picture, and I was like, "That's not my brother." Like, he has muscles. But it changed him. Like, after we lost Adam, we heard so many stories. Like, hundreds of people told us stories of things that Adam did to, like, oh, if one time I was carrying my groceries in a block away, and Adam saw me and ran down the street and helped me carry my groceries in. And like, I was like, Adam did that? You sure he didn't? He wasn't playing Xbox or something, like, and like, oh, he took the blame when I was wearing a watch and I wasn't supposed to, and got in trouble, and like, so many little things. He cared about others, and he was the first to jump up and help somebody and
protect his teammates when they were being picked on. He would handle it.
Yeah, there's lots of stories.
He was.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Amber? What's your favorite Adam memory as a kid? Favorite one?
Oh my goodness.
I don't. Okay. When we were little, Adam was obsessed with Christmas. He loved Christmas, and we weren't allowed to open our presents until our mom would wake up, and she liked to tease us too. That's where Adam got it. So she would sleep in on purpose. And Adam one time was like, "I'm gonna go wake up Mom," and he ran upstairs, and then he comes back and he's like, "Mom said we could open our presents without her," and we're pretty young. Like, I was under 10, and so.
Yeah, definitely young.
We were pretty little. And so we all start opening our presents, but Adam sits off to the side and watches it. And then when Mom comes down and sees that we've all opened our presents, Adam's like, I didn't open mine.
No.
Yeah, that sounds like.
And he'd
a problem.
always, having 9 kids, there were certain foods that we didn't get very often. Like we loved crescent rolls, and Adam would always lick all of them to make sure, because
Or it was any food. It was like if she made pizza or something, she would say, start off with 1 slice, and he would grab 3 and he'd lick them so that nobody else would want it. So it didn't matter how much food there was. If he licked it, nobody else would want it. So he would do that to everything.
That's so funny.
Oh,
Audrey,
yes.
what's
That's
your
the thing
favorite
I
memory,
remember.
brother?
Yes. Go ahead,
Audrey,
Audrey.
what's your
But-
favorite memory?
That's
My favorite, I mean, that pretty much right there is he, in his teenage years, he annoyed me. He was so annoying. I had to take him with me places. Mom said, take Adam with you and just go out cruising or something. And I left him one time because I forgot I brought him, and I was almost home. And then I was like, oh shoot, where's Adam? So I turn around and go back and find him. And then when I found him, he was so drunk and high, and I started yelling at everybody, like, who did this to my brother? And they were like, we didn't do it, I swear. And so I was yelling at him, and told him, I said, when we get home, I said, you go straight to your room, put your pajamas on, and go to bed, and don't say a word. Well, he went straight to his room. He didn't put his pajamas on. He was in his clothes, tennis shoes and all, and he crawls in bed, pulls his blanket up, and his shoes are sticking out, and he's just giggling like a little girl. And Mom comes in, and then we got busted because he was drunk. And I was like, I am never taking you anywhere again. Can't believe you did that. He was such a turd. Can't believe how he was. He was annoying, and he was so cocky at that age too. But he was, and like Amber said, he was scrawny, and he was cocky, but he thought that they were that they weren't messing with him because he was because he was cocky, and that he thought they were scared of him. But it was because they didn't want to make me mad. They said, tell your brother to stop or we're going to beat his ass. And I said, do it. He needs it. And they were like, no, I don't want to make you mad. And I was like, well, somebody needs to teach him a lesson. And they wouldn't do it. So he thought they were afraid of him. So then it made him even cockier. And so I thought that was pretty funny that, he thought he was big stuff when that was really, they didn't want to make me mad. Because I wasn't.
I don't have a big sister, but I can imagine having a big sister.
And I wasn't big. I haven't grown since 5th grade, so.
You probably got a mean streak in you. I can guess. You probably got a little bit of mean
The little ones are always the meanest.
We have to
Conlon,
be.
I know you weren't prepared for this, but I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite childhood memory of Joe?
Well, I have a lot.
Mhm.
I have a lot of memories like they do. He liked to scare me a lot. That was probably his favorite thing in the world to do. Like, he would do things like cut the power. Like, I think he had left with my grandmother to go to church or someplace that I wasn't going with them. And I'd be home, and he'd have her drop him off and sneak back in the house and cut all the power off, then start rattling things around. I'd think somebody broke into the house. He liked to do stuff like that to me a lot. Those were my favorite times. He also would hang me from the doorknob, give me a wedgie and hang me so I couldn't get down. I was his little sister. So he did a lot of teasing of me.
Oh, yeah. Adam used to put a broom through my brother's overalls and hang him up on the bunk bed and leave him.
That's the kind of stuff Joe did to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll never forget my brother. So Austin was the baby of Angel was the baby. Angel and Austin were the 2 youngest. And I was in college, and I had come home one time, and I had Austin with me, and we were heading back to my mom's house, and he's like, is Adam there? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And he's like, oh no, it's beat up time.
It's beat up time. That's funny.
And now he's a grown little boy.
what if you had to give advice to someone who's newly into your a club nobody really wants to be in, but the Gold Star community, somebody who's brand new, who's lost a sibling, and they need to find some community of brothers and sisters of Gold Star siblings, what would your advice be to them to make them understand that, while life will never be the same, life does continue on, and that there is a renewed purpose that can be found through the grief and the pain. I'll start with you, Audrey.
Don't start with me because I don't know.
Amber, you jump in.
I have an ADHD.
I really think finding a community, we have the Navy SEAL Foundation and the Gold Star siblings and Sibling Wellness Weekend, but there's also the Travis Manion Foundation, doing service in honor of your sibling, or it's not just for siblings. It could be your child. It could be your friend. Doing service in honor of someone you lost is the most rewarding thing I can possibly imagine. And
I agree with that.
So just find a community.
I think now with the internet, I would recommend that anybody who is new to the Gold Star community, Google Gold Star and things will pop up. But I do know I'll be mentioning on each podcast different organizations, but like Amber said, Travis Manion Foundation is a great organization to get involved with if you are a Gold Star or just a human being who wants to contribute to veteran causes and support veterans and Gold Stars. You can volunteer as a just normal human being who wants to give back. Another place is Camp Benizi, is another organization that I know that does things for Gold Star siblings, and I want to mention them because my kids and I just had the opportunity to go and stay there. So there are organizations out there.
And I have done the sister at Holbrook Farms. I did
that once myself, and that's another great cause. I'm hoping that through this, maybe Matt and I in the comments can put some links to some of these great organizations, and I'm hoping to have some people from those organizations talk on the show one day too, so that people can maybe help to contribute to them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Do you have any, Amber? We'll lead with you because you're the one that obviously is that Audrey likes to punt over to. I feel like we're in Hollywood here, by the way. A little Hollywood Squares looking. I'm probably you guys don't remember that. I'm older. Amber, do you have any closing words that you would like to say about your brother, about resiliency, about finding purpose again after the loss of your brother?
I guess really, I don't even know. I don't know how to put it.
I'll say with me, the resilience part is after the wreck, I have done things just because Adam would do it. Just anything that that they would say that I couldn't do because of my amputation, I would do it, or I'd purposely find something that I could, do just to say that I've done it, even though I'm terrified of heights. I've done things. I went parasailing twice. So I've done things like that. I hiked probably 20 miles in Alaska to see some waterfalls in the rain and everything, just to say that I did it, and climb that tower. I find things to do just because I know that Adam would not let that stop him, that he would, especially if anybody told me couldn't do it, and my doctors tell me I can't do it, and then they know I'm going to do it anyway already. So they just, all right, we're prepared to fix whatever you're going to do to your prosthetic. What you trying to do? Climb a mountain or something. They know what to do. So that's how I like to do things, is how he did, and and just hope that he's proud of me and what I've done. what I'm doing, trying to do, is what I'm trying to do is just make him proud, because I was proud of him. And I know I never really got a chance to tell him that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have.
What she said.
I wanted to thank you guys for being our first guests. This is I've never done a co-hosting with anybody, and I've never done 4 people in the same chat room. So this is
that was my idea.
It was
Way to go, Bronwyn.
But here's what I can tell you, as the elder member of this foursome here. I find it inspiring to have women who are willing to pick up the torch and be strong and be leaders, and Amber having to be the one who had to coordinate everything after your brother died. And, women, mama bears are the backbone of our society. I think the world would be run over by tyrants if there weren't moms. And because moms, I don't care what happens, if you mess with their kids or someone else's kids.
Matt, are you running for a cabinet seat on Trump's organization right now?
But I am available. And I, having been entrenched in this for the last 5 or 6 years with Bronwyn, and since Job died, Bronwyn and I talked a lot after he died, just about, sharing that loss and that grief process. And I'm very thankful that you guys are being such strong, resilient women in honor of your brother. And I think it's going to inspire a lot of people who watch this. And hopefully, as we regrow the brand of the podcast and get more Gold Star families to come out and talk and trust Bronwyn and I, or me at least, I know they already trust Bronwyn. I think we're going to have a lot of success. And I do want to put out before I forget, because it is important, that Bronwyn and I have a documentary film in development right now about Job's life and about the way he died and the issues surrounding that and the investigation that I've done into it. And I think it's important that not only do we remember those that, like your brother who died in combat, that the Job Prices of the world who didn't get the justice that he deserved, finally do get it, and that his legacy and his honor and his dignity can be restored, so that I'm sad that I didn't get to do it when his dad was still alive, but we're close. And I just wanted to thank everybody. If anybody wants to chime in, if anybody started with Job that watches this and wants to talk about Job, you can go to whokilledjobprice.com, and the people from the documentary film company will answer emails from there and talk to anybody who wants to do that. And I think it's important that we do share that as well every time that we have this podcast going. Bronwyn, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, ladies, for having the courage to be my first guest.
You're lucky we love you.
You're welcome.
You are an inspiration to me. Like, I follow you on social media, and I smile every time I see something you guys post, because you're just a light. And I feel like if anybody in the world, I wanted to be the first people. You two are great candidates, because you bring me so much joy and positivity through watching, your resilience. And you're my dandelions, because I always say that there's two kinds of people. There's people who grow up through the street like cracks, like dandelions, through the cracks, they won't get the right food, the right light, the right love, anything, but they're still growing up there and blooming the best they can. And then there are people who are like orchids, right? And the light, the rain has to be right, everything has to be right, the soil, or they're just going to crumble and die. But you're not orchids. You guys are dandelions. I'm telling you right now. And I will always be your fans, and I'm hoping that this will open up an outlet for Gold Star siblings, especially, to find a support group where they can reach out, and maybe we can somehow, all of us together, create some sort of a system where we could be a source for Gold Stars to get some sort of support. So I think we can all look into that, and that's the path that we can look into now that we've started. So thank you for helping me on my journey here to have your voices be heard.
Yeah.
Ladies,
Well,
don't
thank
get
you.
off. Once we end the show, I'm going to get us out of the live and into our
Let's do
private
a
chat again, and we can
debriefing
talk
or
a little bit more.
debriefing.
So
about
I do
how-
appreciate you guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of the Two Dates in a Dash podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Kubler, and you are Bronwyn Price.
Yes, I am.
You are.
Sorry, missed that cue. I'm Bronwyn Price.
We'll close better the next one. I can promise you that. All right, everybody. God bless. Take care. Go out and be kind to one another.
Bye.
Bye.